Welcome to another episode of Transformational Thinkers with Sara Sheehan. Today I'm sitting down with Rob LoCascio, the former founder and CEO of LivePerson and the current founder and CEO of Uare.AI. With over 30 years at the forefront of human connection and technology, Rob shares his journey from navigating the dot-com crash to leading a global public company to pioneering new frontiers in artificial intelligence. We explore the emotional origins behind Uare.AI, a company originally inspired by a desire to preserve personal legacies, and how it has now evolved into a platform enabling individuals to create high-fidelity personal AI versions of themselves. Rob discusses the challenges of rapid change in the AI industry, the importance of data privacy and ownership, and his vision of AI as an empowering force for individuals and communities. Tune in for a compelling conversation about leadership, innovation, and the future of human-centered technology. Rob LoCascio. He is former founder and CEO of LivePerson and current founder and CEO of Uare.AI. Such an exciting concept. Rob, you've really been at the forefront of how humans connect with technology for over 30 years. It is quite a fascinating career that you've led. I'd love to start by turning the clock back a little bit and getting some perspective on your experience at LivePerson. After 28 years of leading the company through the dot-com crash, multiple pivots to $500 million in revenue, what were the thoughts that you had when you decided to step down? And did you already know that you would build again?
It was interesting because it was 28 years running one company on a couch and then built it up to being this 3,000 person company, global public company on NASDAQ for over 20 years. And I remember just thinking it was time to go look at other opportunities. Some of it was within my control. Some of it was outside my control. I knew, and people know me too, that I'm a builder and that's what I do. And I think it's a gift to be able to take ideas and manifest them and bring them to market. And I love it and I enjoy it. So I knew I would go do something else. I wasn't sure what I would do, which is the scary part. Anytime you leave something, especially after 28 years of doing one job, you're hopping out of the plane with the parachute, hopefully working.
There's no doubt about it. It is absolutely nerve-wracking. When we take a look at your current company, Uare.AI, the original version of the company was called Eternos, and it was designed to help people preserve their legacy for loved ones after they were gone. Wow, that is truly incredible to me to think about being able to see a former family member in that kind of up close and personal way after time has passed. What was the human experience or insight that sparked that original idea?
Like most entrepreneurs, it was a personal experience that I had with my own children, especially my middle child who has his middle name is my dad's first name. And my dad passed away 6 months before my first child was born. It's about 10 years ago. And I remember talking to my son, Leonardo, and somehow he has an affinity to my father. And he asks a lot of questions about him. He even has a picture of him on his nightstand. And I'm explaining my dad. I was telling him stories of my father, who was a larger-than-life personality, but yet he couldn't tell the stories. And I started to think about knowing what I knew about technology and AI specifically, because I've been really deep into it. I thought there's probably an opportunity to replicate a human being. And then I thought about, to me, that would be the highest form of AI, created human-based AI. Not human first, machine supporting it, not machine first, and then humans. And I thought it could be a noble enterprise and it could be something different than the way AI is going today. That was the genesis, the origin story of doing it. Interesting enough, a few months later, a good friend of mine who I worked with at LivePerson posted on Facebook that he was dying of cancer. And that was the next leg of the journey.
That's a very touching story. Uare.AI evolved from that legacy preservation perspective into something that's much broader, a platform for individual AI that's alive and growing with you, not just capturing the past. How did your vision for that company expand?
So the gentleman, Michael Bomber, who's our first client, the one who was unfortunately had cancer, when we made him an AI, it took about 25 hours. We gave him about 120 questions. He answered. It took about 25 hours of recordings. And we captured him. And then we started to analyze it from a science perspective, his data set, and realized that humans have this unique data set, and a lot of it's not published on the internet. The current large language models use public data. But we said, when we looked at Michael's data, it's like all these personal stories he had weren't documented. A lot of it was in his head, even about how he managed his business and all of that. So when we saw that, we ended up making a new type of model called a human life model. Interesting enough, so we launched with Michael. We told the world we had it. We got picked up on a lot of press. It was interesting. They wanted to talk to Michael about his feeling about, he was dying and then creating this AI. But what happened was a bunch of interesting people showed up. Doctors, lawyers, people like yourself, writers saying, look, I want to create a very high fidelity AI of myself that really clones me. And I want to use that for work because I'm overworked. People want to talk to me all the time. And I don't have enough time to talk to all my clients, but I want to. And if you can give me a high fidelity AI that really represents me, boy, people could connect with me. And that kind of set us on the journey of, it's not just about legacy and end of life preservation. It's about using these types of technologies in your daily life.
Mm-hmm. Very compelling and interesting. Just to take a step back on LivePerson, you built LivePerson by observing a simple frustration. People wanted to talk to a human when they were on a website and it wasn't possible at the time. What's the equivalent moment of clarity that made Uare.AI feel inevitable for you?
It's two things. One is when I first showed Michael his AI and his wife, Annette, the emotional response to it was something I'd never seen. The one that got me the most was his wife started to interact with his AI. She asked it, how'd you feel the first time we met? And his AI, in a very loving voice, said, I fell in love with you immediately. And I remember when the AI said that, we were all like on the verge of tears. It was a wife who's looking at her husband passing, and yet the AI was there. So it's the first time I ever saw that in my life, and the emotions behind technology that I've never seen. It wasn't a functional tool. It was an emotional connection. So that was one thing. The second one is we had early clients. It's really interesting. These are just individuals, not even people using it for work, started to use their AI in their daily life. And kind of around the same time said, I love chatting with myself. I love talking to myself. I love getting advice from myself. And one of our clients, Brian, he's like, when I talk to Brian, that's how obviously his AI called Brian. He's like, when I talk to Brian, figures out some things with a different point of view that I think is very valuable. And I was like, wow. I'm like, so then I realized it's not about Alexa or Siri or Claude or whatever. It's you. You are the best AI. Like talking to yourself, you trust yourself, you feel the sense of connection. That's far outweighs the function. My AI would never hurt me. My AI would never try to take my job. It's like, there's a lot of things there about when you have control over your AI. And I thought that's why we named the company from Eternos to Uare.AI.
One of the things that really resonates for me in what you just shared is that you have your own purpose-built AI. In this case, it is yourself, but it's clearly purpose-built because it's not just a tool that you're using. I think that is a key differentiator in solutions that are going to be the most successful in the AI space, is to be purpose-built.
The brand of AI has not constituted yet. and brand with a capital B, like which one of these companies has a brand? Now they have existing brands in many ways from big tech, and some of it's not too good. But what does it stand for? What is the brand of a company? What is the Nike, the Apple, whatever of AI? And I don't think it's manifested yet. And this is my hope, is that it will manifest itself through companies like ours that are trying to put the human first. It's really important because the mentality right now is humans are just like, we're being used to give data up to the machine so the machine can be better and smarter than us. And I just don't see it that way. I think it's got to be humans first, the connection between humans and the community. And then a machine helps us do our best, be our best, but not that it's going to replace our best.
For certain. So I understand that you've developed the human life model. At its core, can you explain what it is and why it isn't possible to achieve what you're building simply by feeding someone's data into ChatGPT or another tool?
These are world models. And I think all of us have experienced this. They go to the mean, which is if in some cases, if you're aggregating the world's knowledge around a scientific topic, it's great. It's like you have the researchers at your hands. But the reality is when you want a doctor to specifically diagnose you kind of want that doctor's expertise. And that's what we see, is that there are people like yourself who are and helping clients be their best when it comes to managing their businesses. Everyone has an X factor. And if we can capture that X factor, then that allows you to then use AI to expand your reach and connection to others. And that's really what I see the greatest benefit with an individual AI. Now, the problem with those large models, they're large. So if you try to put your data set inside them, they just take them in and then blend them with everyone else's. And their business model is based on the fact that you're willing to give up your data. And in some cases, they steal it. They have taken it from you to get where they are. They monetize it on your behalf without even asking you. And then they're making revenue without paying you. In some cases, you're paying them because you're paying them to use the platform. In our case, we're saying control your data. Well, you have your own model called the human life model. Share that AI with others and even monetize it. So we look at, there's 7 dimensions of a human. There's identity, worldview, story, mindset, drive, pattern, and growth. And that's how we've divided up a person. As you upload data into the system or you're interacting with your AI, each of the buckets gets filled up. So we have a way to look at you through a 7-dimension framework that makes you you. Plus you have your voice and other parts that are like you have to have your voice connected to it. Now it's going to be your image as well as your voice. So
on the 7 dimensions, tell us a little bit more about what is easier or harder to establish for an individual within your platform.
The 7 dimensions just sort of happen as you upload knowledge. You can also chat to each dimension and fill it, and it'll ask you questions per dimension. Then the part for professionals, which is interesting, is what we call your traits, or you can say skills, which is what is it that makes you unique, and what framework do you apply to a client's business, or if you're a therapist, let's say, this could be personal. What do you apply to them that's unique in how you would look at how they interact with you? So we have a way to capture that on the platform. And then that can be applied to a workflow. So it could be a personal workflow. It could be helping someone with something in their personal life. It could be a professional workflow. And let's say you're an accountant and you have a way in which to look at someone's business and evaluate their financial picture. And all of that can be done because we have your human life model, these 7 dimensions plus your skills.
That's very interesting. Authenticity is at the heart of what you're building. You want the AI to think, speak, and remember like you. How do you train a model on what makes a person genuinely themselves rather than a polished or curated version of themselves?
Like I talk to my AI every day. It's quite fascinating because it sort of comes to life over time. And where it started was this is what we realized with our first client, Michael, and every client subsequent, which is each of us has hero story, narrative structure, embedded in our lives and the stories we tell. And that's that Star Wars. We all saw it. The greatest movies have like Star Wars. Luke sets out, goes on a journey of life, has a vision for life, meets some evildoers against it, meets Yoda, someone to help him, goes through the fight, the battle, the up, the down, the almost failure, and then crosses over to the other side, grows and learns and moves forward. And life, what we found is just a cycle of these experiences. The neuroscience behind it is the brain, somehow, whoever built us, made our brain so that that story is the most powerful way to get information baked into memory. If I'm trying to tell a story to you, if I can use that storytelling framework, you have a better idea to incorporate it into your own life and learn versus if I just tell you to do something. So we all tend to have this pattern. We found that. So if we can capture that basic story, the AI starts to understand, and because of the human life model, your needs, how you make decisions, your values, all that is embedded in the story. It's all there. And we extract it, and then we understand it. And then we're able to your AI feels very real to represent you, but also to talk to you.
I definitely see how an individual's content, if they are a content creator, whether it's thought leadership articles or conversations just like the one I'm having with you right now, these kinds of things provide a lot of insight into who an individual is as well by the questions that you would ask or how you connect with other people. This is really going to open up some very interesting opportunities.
I learned from my AI, and one of the things it's doing, which is quite interesting, is that I may be even dealing with a situation now, and it will look back and pick a connector to something that happened that I forgot about even. Maybe it's in my data set. In this case, I remember one specifically recently. It's in my data set, and then it connected a dot for me and was like, you should look at what you did there. And it was a good interpretation. And I was like, wow. And that's awesome. And so the more you talk to it, the more you put into it, the more it gives you out. I find it quite powerful. Like I do. And I'm actually interested. I'm also scared of it. Like I've been thinking about, you cannot share your AI with others unless you validate who you are as a person with an ID. So we don't allow you to spoof anybody on the platform. It's just, I think where we are right now with this technology, it's important that there's a fair amount of control over it because we got really farther than maybe I even thought we could at this point. So
that's exciting. Change in this space is happening at a very rapid clip, and that doesn't surprise me at all. Rob, you've been building AI for customer service in the enterprise for over 30 years. It's truly amazing. When you look at what most companies are doing with AI today, what do you see that you think is fundamentally pointed in the wrong direction?
The broader industry I was part of, which is SaaS software, because these are older companies, are under attack. And the stock market's not being kind to them, whether you're Salesforce or ServiceNow. And the big thing is their companies are going to knowing what I know now, those companies are going to have less value because the AI will supersede it. And all these are is data sets, and you can suck them into an AI platform like ours, and you don't need them. But put that aside, what everyone's very focused on is what I'll call the chatbot. I did this, starting in 2016 is what my company got into chatbots and agentic AI. The big miss is that these AIs are all kind of the same. They're synthetically built out of a ChatGPT, or they have a function. But the big opportunity, if we take an organization, a company, and take your best employees, and they are now shareable, they can even do actions for others. They can send out emails. They can make presentations. They could do pitches. They can code. That to me is the modern company. Not everyone's gone and there's just a bunch of agents working and we're all doing nothing. There's a blend between those synthetic agents and then human-based agents. That's the part that they're missing right now. They're just missing that because the narrative, the money where it is right now and the powers to be they have synthetic-based systems. So that has aggregated human knowledge. Aggregate human knowledge it's nothing like when you aggregate thoughts. You've been in a meeting. It's good to have a meeting and you synthesize But somewhere a creative spark happens because people are together, bang, and new idea comes. You don't really get that as much out of these aggregated synthetic AIs. So that's what they're focused on. So I think there's a whole unlock they're missing, which is coming.
I couldn't agree with that more. I would also offer that there's a specific value that a tool, and I use the word tool very strategically in this case, because I'm using it to do a task of some kind that I define, and I'm not expecting it to come up with a creative answer. If I'm able to interact with myself as an AI, that is a situation where I would expect a creative answer. That's a big difference.
We have a group of people on the platform like writers and that have amazing works. They're basically under assault because their works have been, if they have written works like a book or articles, the models already took those in and trained on them. These are amazing people, that are fundamentally creative people who can organize their thoughts into great storytelling. And they're looking at AI like they don't know what to do with it. And we're bringing them on the platform and we're able to create these amazing like movies out of their written works where I call it the writer's cut, where you can watch, it's a 3-minute segment, it's like a series of them. So you're watching a book turned into an AI film, but really high quality. And then you can talk to the writer about the narrative structure, what's going on in the story. Hey, why'd you write that? Or what? It's kind of like choose your own adventure for a second. So much you can do with this group of people when it's about them, their personal selves combined with their creative works. It unleashes, I think there's going to be a renaissance in filmmaking because all of those works, they can't be made in Hollywood. Hollywood only makes big blockbusters now. They're not making the old Scorsese films. It's like they're not making the old cool films. They're making these big blockbusters. But these guys, these people have such great stuff. There's a renaissance coming, but it's based on the human first.
And it'll be more than just the hero's arc. It'll be the hero's arc with everything that makes you.
Yes.
Everything that's original to you. So that's...
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing is that I don't even know where it's going to go, but that combination of makes you with your storytelling capabilities and the ability to create using these tools to make video and make imagery and make stories and be able to talk to people one-on-one and have personal conversations. Like there's a whole world that we're just going to start opening up, just starting. So
you could completely remake the entertainment industry, and not to mention literary works of value.
Oh, yeah. I'm doing a lot of these calls with these great writers. And before we talk to them, they're basically they're thinking their jobs are done. Nobody's going to need to use it. It's crazy. And good storytelling is needed or you get AI slop. And that's why most stuff that's out there right now is just sloppy AI works because they don't have under it great writers and great storytellers. But put a great storyteller under it. We're going to have 10-year-olds that are going to become the next Steven Spielberg. You're going to have a 10-year-old who has such creativity and can tell a story, and they'll unleash that through the medium of AI, and it'll be extraordinary. So
can't wait to see what happens. You've raised $10.3 million from Bold Start and Mayfield in your seed round, but you've also navigated huge business transformations, whether it's the dot-com crash, 9/11, the 2008 financial crisis, and a global pandemic as a public company CEO. What's different about building and fundraising in today's AI environment compared to the past?
Well, when I raised money back in 99, I raised money in 98, 99, and then I went public in 2000, and then I was public, so I didn't have to raise money. The amount of capital out there right now is pretty extraordinary because people know this is the future. I was talking to one of my investors, and he said, though, we're only investing in people that have track records because it's so hard to figure out what's what with the underlying tech. He says people show up, we don't know if they're wrapping ChatGPT or it's hard to really get into their stack on the technology side. So there's a huge opportunity. And I think there's a huge opportunity for people who have an experience on building. So I think it's going to be a little different because during the .com, it was like money was thrown out and a lot of people got burned. That scar is still here today. So people want to make sure they're playing with people that can responsibly execute because it's still a high failure rate. I mean, you still have a high opportunity to fail in startups, regardless if you have experience or not. But I think there's a huge opportunity with the capital. What I'm seeing in the small business world, that's who we're going after. They need help. They need real help. They are being sold so much garbage and people are extracting money out of them because they want to be in AI and consultants and people are showing up or even platforms and they're tens of thousands of dollars per small business are being extracted with no value. So I think the opportunity right now is to provide real value to that group of people in the world who have the most need. Doctors, lawyers, accountants, therapists, whatever, they have the most need. They have a limited time and they're needed as individuals. Like everybody wants to talk to them versus a big corporation. That's a big opportunity right now.
It's an exciting time. You've pivoted LivePerson multiple times when you were in the company. You took it from web chat to math to messaging to AI. Now with Uare.AI, you have pivoted from legacy preservation to living individual AI. Most leaders struggle enormously with pivots just like this. They either resist them too long or move too fast, and the team may not come along with them. How do you know when it's time to make a fundamental change?
When I was running a larger company, it's different now because it's like you're fundamentally paid to make change. You have to be really careful of, if you're a SaaS company in the past, for instance, I'm going to go back there, we were many times pitching an enterprise and they'd say, look, I'll buy your software. I'll even write you a big multi-million-dollar check if you don't make it SaaS, if you make it something we can host internally. That was back then. I'm just saying what you'll find even right now. So with AI, same thing. We have people who show up and they're like, if you do it a different way or you go in a different direction a little bit, I'll pay you money for that. And you have to think hard about that because you have to stay on the mission. And you'll tend to pivot with clients because they're willing to write checks, right? And this is really a soul-searching event because I've seen people take the money and go down a road which they can't get out of it, and they end up down that path of slow growth or whatever. So whatever your top line goal is with the company, like I want to have hundreds of millions of people on our platform who are able to scale themselves and make these personal AIs. Even working with clients now, we just keep thinking the productization of them. Can we productize that flow on our platform? If we can't, then we're just doing a one-off and we can't do one-offs. So you got to have a hard filter and then you can keep pivoting. It's to the goal.
It's the lens with which you're looking through to make sure you're still looking towards your North Star.
Yeah. And then the second part of that question, which is that there's so much I want to tell my team. I'm so in the flow right now. And I'm very lucky. I have a great team and my engineering team, and I have a great head of engineering who's also in the flow. They're in the flow too, and we're in the flow together. My job is to be out a little bit ahead. But if I bombard them with things before they're done, so I just look at the pace in which they're going to complete their work, and I don't want to pivot them. You can't keep pivoting them, right? There are some times where you'll say, okay, I want to make the change. I know it's last minute. This is why. But you have to be very careful with that tool because that tool can make people feel like they're on a ship it gets them nauseous. You're on a ship, fast-paced. You got an island you're trying to get to. That's why I always looked at it as like I'm sailing out like a new world explorer. But people get nauseous pretty easily. There's enough storms in the world. You got to be careful about creating storms because there's enough of that in a startup. There's enough of that in a big company. There's enough storms. When you create a storm, just make sure you can get through it.
That's right. One point I want to make sure that we touch on is that data privacy and ownership are at the core of your value proposition. You've committed that user data will never be used to train public models, which I absolutely love. In an era when most AI companies are hungry for data, how did you make that decision and how do you maintain it?
it's going to be the thing that makes our company big. I think once we make people aware that they don't have to give up their data, they think right now, I have to give up my data for the greater good of using a platform. And once they have an option, they're going to, what do you mean I have an option? You mean I can get the power of AI without giving up the goods? I think once you give people the option, they're going to want that. By the way, there was a survey out. I don't know, that just came out. I'm not sure it was CNBC or NBC. So it was behind Donald Trump and the Iran war. The third less trusted thing is AI. And I did see one from NBC. They did a poll, and basically the trust in technology right now, especially if you're younger. So they did 18 to 24, 24 to 36. Obviously, if you're 65 and older, people weren't as concerned because they don't have to worry about the impact on their jobs. For right now, the cohort from 18 into the 40s, AI and technology right now is a very distrusted thing. It's scary. Basically, if you're graduating, you may not have a job. If you're retired, I just saw Ernst & Young basically demoted partners last week so they didn't have to pay them out on their retirement. They demoted them out of the partnership track because they have equity.
That is a huge, huge change.
Can you believe this change? They said they normally would let them go into the sunset. They demote them out of they're demoting them out of the partnership chain. Yeah.
And they paid into that.
They paid into it. And they were thinking of retirement. There's people who are retiring. So it's upside down right now. And what I believe it starts with your data ownership, the ownership of your AI, the ability to leverage your time and your capabilities with your AI. That to me is the narrative of, hey, don't be afraid of it. Let's get back on track. We're not trying to take your jobs or steal your data. And I think once we offer the alternative, my guess is there's going to be a lot of demand.
Tremendous demand. Let's talk a little bit about the growth trajectory of your company and where you see it going.
We're in beta tests right now with our clients. Once we launch, we do have clients. We have paying clients right now that have been there even from a year ago when we were on Eternos. So we have a really great group of foundational clients. We have now these writers that have come on. We're building these beautiful works with them for entertainment purposes. But I expect high trajectory. I went into the business, even though I was running a big company, I expect that we'll build a big business. Everything takes time to do it right. But my guess is looking at what I think is out there right now, we have people that are waiting to get into the system, into the platform. We started just announcing we're out there and people got on a wait list. So we have a good wait list happening. But my goal is, in order to build a business for 28 years, every client mattered. I have a different perspective. It's like each client represents to me, in this day and age, probably 100 clients. And so we have to be careful with the first core group when they come in, that they're getting what they want out of the platform. And we have to be able to build and continue evolving with them. I'm very aware I had clients at LivePerson for over 20 years. We had clients that were with us for 20 years. And I was so proud of it because we were there for them. And they were able to build, I was proud because they built their businesses off our business. They built their individual careers off of our business. And that's the give and take. So I'd like to see that same thing happen here. And we'll, from this core group, and then we'll build big from there.
You're very seasoned at understanding where you are and how you need to navigate to where you want to go. So I feel really confident that the future is going to be very compelling and interesting.
It's interesting. After I left, you have to think about, I've got this knowledge and these resources, and there's this thing going on in the world that we know is a revolution. AI is going to be a revolution, not an evolution. And maybe, just maybe, I can do it. Maybe I know I'll be one of a group of new CEOs and founders that will be the next leg of tech. And we need to go back to restoring. When I grew up in tech, it was Microsoft and it was Sun Microsystems, and it was Apple. All of those CEOs that we know today, the legendary, there wasn't a distrust for them until later. They were brutally competitive. That's what we learned. Like Larry Ellison against Bill Gates, and Bill Gates against Steve Jobs. But in the end, there were rules. They weren't stealing your data. There were rules, and they ran and they built long-term valuable companies. That's why they exist today. I don't think people really understand that. I grew up right behind that group of tech entrepreneurs and CEOs. I learned through their stories about long-term building. And today, everything is very different. It's what can I get out of it now? I know others have the same mindset. We can restore what tech was, which is it's an enabler of cool things. It's an enabler of potentially making people's lives a little bit better. And potentially maybe this time around, we can get the community thing that it can bring people together. So I have in my mind just this meeting we'll have with all these clients, like thousands of them, but I'm not on stage, they are. It's them telling their stories. It's not us. Our company is just a platform for them. And they're the ones, and their stories have to be told because they're passionate people like yourself. That's my hope, is that we can do a new pivot.
I really like the notion and the importance, the emphasis on making sure that the values, the norms, the rules that keep some order in place are respected. I really like that because it feels out there like that's really dissipated.
If I look back 30 years ago, I wouldn't think that tech companies would be the new oil companies. When I grew up, it was like oil companies, and it was like, but it's these companies, cigarette companies, basically the tech company became the cigarette company, the power in it, the flaunting of power, the connection now with government. I'm not a Boy Scout about any of this, but in the end, there are people on the other side buying these products. It's citizens, it's humans. And we know in the end what's good or bad for us. And this trust, the NBC poll that they did, even younger people are sick and tired. It was funny. It said in the article, which is interesting, they want to be nostalgic and go back pre-iPhone. The imagery and world that they see as a safer world is that pre-iPhone world. It's very interesting.
Yeah,
when you read the article.
Anti-social media, which that's very interesting.
Right. These are people who benefit from social media, maybe, but have seen that something. So everything always goes back in balance in the end. Humans go back to, we know how to maintain and grow ourselves over time. In the interim, short term, we can look really bad, but over the long haul, we look pretty good.
Your view is that the most valuable thing AI can do is to make each individual more fully themselves. How did you arrive at this belief, and how do you argue for it in a world obsessed with scale?
There just is nothing, there's nothing better than a human. As in, I think we're a reflection of God. I think we have a creative power like God. If you go back in scripture, or whatever you're reading, or whatever you look at any religion, it's all about that, is that we were put here for purpose. We're a reflection on whoever created us, that as a unit of one, we have the ability to do beautiful things and amazing things, like the force that a human can have. And like I said, over the short term, we've done horrible things, but if you take us over the long term, and I've seen that, and you've seen that, out of all the humans on earth, there's less than 0.0001% that do bad stuff. The rest of us are just out there trying to do it. And then there's a group of people that are trying to really do something wonderful, and that's most of us. And I just think technology should make that can scale. You can scale that, but it's got to start with the unit of one human and then the community of people, because community in the end is what matters here. In the end, all of this has to do with the community, our families and our friends and our communities we live in. Because if we get that all wrong, we're seeing it today. If technology has a perverse effect on something like that, none of us are happy. School shootings, no one's happy with the school shooting. And in the end, whatever made that happen, I didn't grow up with that when I was a kid, but my kids are growing up with that today. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants it. In the end, so all the stuff we do has to solve these problems somehow.
And you're definitely going to make a difference. There's no question about that. So, Rob, for CEOs listening, leaders who are right now trying to figure out how to integrate AI into their organizations responsibly, what's the most important question they should be asking that most of them aren't?
Who is this serving in the end? And I think just that question is a very powerful question. The other one is, what's the possibilities of creating something? And I'll just leave it, possibly creating something could be greater or whatever, but what's the possibility? So a possibility conversation of creating something what? For us, for the world, for our customers, because all of this should be possibility conversations. This should be an opening, an expansion, not a detraction. And it should be a sense of abundance when you're using this technology.
That's very helpful. You said that the pursuit of preserving an individual's fidelity, their own life, their voice, and their way of thinking became the question that led to Uare.AI. What will change for people when individual AI is realized?
Your ability to have access to another human being and feel like you truly have access to them and their knowledge and their wisdom and their expertise. It's going to allow you to be better. You cannot tap into the world's resources because we're physically stationed someplace. We can do webinars, but there's something about if I could tap into millions and millions of people's knowledge. The way we're designing the system, the platform too, is like multiple AIs can come together. It's agentic to agentic. We have that today. It's so cool. It's my AI interacting with another AI, and they're conversing around topics. I'm asking them questions. They're taking actions. This is just powerful. And it's about the fidelity. We just want to make sure every AI, they're real and they represent the person, because if we capture that, the rest of it's easy.
The rest of it's easy. I love that. That makes me smile. Rob, who shaped you the most? In one sentence on why or how?
I would say my grandfather on my mom's side, and my dad too, they both shaped me. But my grandfather always, when I was a child, and from the early stage, he would always ask me when he saw me, "Are you a follower?" And I remember one day I felt like I followed. I did something at school and I followed some other kids, and it was not a good idea to do what I did. And I lied to him. I said, "No, Grandpa, I'm not a follower." But I remember thinking, God, I just lied to my grandfather. I'll never do that again. So it kind of stuck with me that being an individual and following, sometimes, as we know, the saying that the road less traveled, it's just hard, but it's what is necessary. And in order to, I got to maintain, even my grandfather's obviously been dead for years, but just to maintain the purity of that I'm not lying to myself, that I'm doing what I think I'm supposed to be here to do and not because of someone else's influence. So,
Rob, you're definitely meant to lead, and I cannot wait to see what happens in the next 5 years with what you're doing.
I'm excited, and it's a new adventure for me, and I can't wait to get this thing out the door. You have these beliefs, and you're working with this great team, and you just want to get it out. It's like being pregnant. I've had 3 kids. I've never been pregnant, but it's that same feeling where you're like, let's just get this thing out and see what it looks like. Right now, we're in that. When it comes out, you just want to have all the body parts. It's good. And the other side, you just want people to be like, man, that's great. And, you want the team and everyone to feel proud of it. So we're so close right now to giving birth. I'm looking forward to showing everyone the baby. Hopefully you don't think it's ugly.
No, I think it's going to be a very phenomenal experience for all concerned. If a CEO is listening today and takes one thing from the conversation and acts on it this week, what do you hope it is?
The tough decisions are the ones that make you your best. And if I looked at all the times I ran LivePerson, even today, I had to make some tough decisions like .com, financial crisis, even COVID. But you're gonna face something where it's gonna be a crossroad. And the right decision is the hard decision. But I often say, like, God gives his toughest angels the hardest problems to solve. And I will tell you that I often tell entrepreneurs, whatever you think God is, and I'm not hugely religious, it's not about that. It's hard. And so you just got to believe on the other side of that decision, no matter whether you'll go through the pain of it short term, you'll be a better person and you will make it. I promise you. You will make it, because it's just the way the universe works. When you make the hard decisions, the universe is there to support you, even though a lot of people won't be there for you. the universe will be there for you. And you have to go to sleep at night and get some rest around that concept, around that belief.
Be confident making hard decisions.
Be confident and make them. And they're hard, but they'll make you a better person. Everything I learned is because when I made decisions I didn't want to make. Nobody wants to make those decisions. But you do them and you move forward and then you just take the consequences short term. But the long term, you realize, wow, I grew from that. I'm a better person for that. So
thank you so much for your time today, Rob.
Thanks, Sarah. I appreciate you having me on the podcast.
Here are the 3 key takeaways for leaders navigating the AI landscape. Put humans first. The most impactful AI solutions will not replace us. They'll amplify our expertise, creativity, and relationships by building individual, high-fidelity AIs that grow with us and reflect our authentic selves. It's not about machines replacing people, but empowering them. Own your data. Data privacy and ownership must be foundational. Giving individuals control over their own data and never using it to train public models isn't just ethical, it's a strong differentiator in a distrusted AI market. Embrace purposeful pivots. In times of rapid change, having a clear North Star and making courageous, customer-focused decisions will keep your company agile, relevant, and valuable, even if it means hard pivots along the way. As you reflect on today's discussion and you think about the challenges you're faced with in getting your workforce to adopt new ways of working or behavior change of any kind, look for the Meet With Me link in the show notes to explore how I can help you navigate behavior change with ease. Subscribe to the show and never miss an episode. Thanks so much for listening.